Does anyone have a question? I have a few announcements to make. I spoke with Bob and Kenny. They're doing the design for my book, cover and interior. And I think the book should be kind of ready in about a month and a half. I mean, it's already written and edited, and I just wrote an author's note for it. And I should have a book probably within a month to a month and a half, is what I was told. So that's pretty exciting. I mean, I think many people are going to benefit from this book. It really is a combination of memoir and, kind of a book about the technique of this meditation, what Rudra meditation really is. And I hope it'll interest you all, give you all a deeper insight into this meditation, how it works, why it works, how it transforms people inside if they truly do it, and take it upon themselves to be committed to growing spiritually. And I'm very excited. I mean, written a lot of books, but I think this one is really a powerful one and a very deep one, and written in an interesting way. So hopefully in a month and a half, we'll have it. And I decided to self-publish it because, messing around with the publishing world, it could take me about 4 more lifetimes, to get somebody. Meanwhile, it could be out and people can be reading it, and it might not get the distribution I would like and probably won't, but at least people can benefit from it. And I think that really is important. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, I'd like to ask you about having patience with myself in times when I'm struggling with things inside.
Well, if you don't have patience with yourself, Pat, you're never going to have patience with anybody else. You know, you're going to be very judgmental. You're going to, really take people apart. And the first step is we got to realize none of us are perfect. Every one of us makes mistakes. We mess it up. We have blocks. We have tension in ourselves. We have habits that we've had since we're 4 years old. We all live that way, and we need to have patience with ourselves, that it takes time and a hugely deep amount of work to transform oneself, you know, to a much higher level of consciousness. And usually the lack of patience you have with other people means you have no patience with yourself. And that's something you build. You don't get upset because you make mistakes. You don't get upset because things bother you. What do I do to have to change myself inside so that I can deal with all this stuff? And the answer is very simple. We have a chakra below the navel that is rooted, that's powerful, that gives us strength inside, that enables us to open our heart and find forgiveness in our heart and keep our hearts open. So, that lack of patience is telling you haven't developed that chakra below the navel yet fully and completely to where it really can give you, a kind of inner peace. And the meditation is truly about that, really, because nobody's going to be enlightened if they're racked with tension all the time. Nobody. Got to have a state of inner peace, a state of, gratitude, of, finally accepting the fact that we're not perfect. We need to grow, and growing every day is truly the answer to just about all these questions because then we evolve into it. We become peaceful inside. We begin to accept ourselves. We begin to accept the fact that the world we see around us is not perfect. And instead of judging it, we use it. Say, okay, I got to get strong enough so that this doesn't bother me, you know? And how do you do it? You don't do it by, as I say in my book, you don't, you don't, if you have a pimple on your face, you don't put the salve on the mirror. You really have to go to the source of the problem in order to cure yourself of that problem. And this is the same thing. We have to go to the source. And where is the source? It's inside each and every one of us. That's where we build the strength to be able to live a conscious life, a peaceful life, a life connected to God and spirit with, an open heart, with love and forgiveness and all of these wonderful words that we have heard since we're 3 years old, and yet we haven't managed to be able to live that way. So the answer is, working to build an inner light that is strong enough to deal with your problems. And then the problems go away. Once you have the strength to stay centered and balanced inside and deal with all of this stuff, they go away. And there'll be a whole slew of other problems, that come along. And we almost need them in a strange, bizarre way because they make us grow. If we were perfect, we would be crystallized beings with, and having all these things wrong with us really make us grow. They're gifts of God that make us grow. So have patience with yourself and be grateful for the things wrong with you because they're making you grow. Without them, we'd all be a bunch of cabbages. I hope it's clear, I mean, I'm trying to make it clearer, but it's not only a problem you have, everyone has the same problem, Pat. And eventually you grow to the point in yourself where you accept yourself. And there are things wrong with me. And I'm not going to allow them to interfere with my development of a spiritual life. They are going to teach me how to get stronger so that I can absorb them, and I can transcend them and I can, like Rudy always said, it's like turning, garbage into gold. I mean, what makes an organic farm? Garbage, compost. And our compost is tension. So through this inner work, we learn how to transform that tension into something that nurtures the soil inside us and makes us grow and makes us get closer to a spiritual life. I mean, there's nothing wrong in life, except our inability to see that there's nothing wrong. Everything is a teacher about what we need to do to grow. And yes, some of the lessons are very painful. And some of the garbage that goes on in the world is really stupid, what people do to each other. But all of it has a purpose. It teaches us how to live and how not to live. And we have to listen and learn and grow because of what we witness in life. Not to get sucked into it with anger and being upset, but how do I get more? How do I become more of a human being because of what I see in the world? And once you can ask yourself that question, you'll never blame anybody, you know? It's too easy to blame other people. It's absolutely a major effort to change inside so that you begin to see the world differently. And you can take negativity. Uh, so, no, try and sit still, please. You can take negativity and transform it into something that gives you a spiritual life. I used to hear Rudy say that, oh, changing compost, compost creates an organic garden. It's an incredible metaphor for the garbage, the tension that exists inside. It can create an organic garden inside if you use it consciously. If you get strong enough to be able to transform it into an open heart. And you got to get strong inside yourself to do this. Otherwise, it's easy. I mean, it doesn't take any genius to see what's wrong with this world. I mean, any kind of, you don't need a high IQ to recognize all the problems that exist in this world. Just have to get up in the morning. It takes a remarkable person to transform themselves so that these problems become fuel for their spiritual growth. Does anyone else have a question?
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome, Pat. A great question, and it's not only for you. I'm sure there isn't a person sitting here who doesn't have this exact same problem.
Hmm.
Myself, you know, it just takes years of working to be able to how to deal with it. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Just to finish, you're not going to ever love or like what goes on in this world until you love and like yourself. And I don't mean it in an egotistical way. I mean, your heart opens and you accept yourself as a human being. And with all the things you got to deal with and everything else, you accept yourself and say, okay, I can get stronger than all this stuff. I can build me. My self-worth is worth more than any opinion I have about what's wrong with the world. Does anyone else have a question? I'll tell you, this talk would be a good chapter in my book. Although I'm not going to go into it anyway enough. I've written enough. Let's see how many people read it. And, I have 1,300 of these on YouTube and Facebook. I can make, a library. I have so many of these talks. Okay, there'll be a meditation class and a meditation retreat weekend in 2 weekends, and there'll be no class that Sunday. We'll having class, but there'll be 3 classes that Sunday. So I just want to tell you that. And then, there's usually people that stay on Monday and Tuesday, and I try to have classes with them. I do have classes with them. And then right after that, I'm going to go on a vacation for, I think, 4 or 5 days. So I'm just letting you all know I'm not disappearing. I'm giving you fair warning. I'm going to be gone. I need to take a break. Does anyone else have a question? Okay, if there are no more questions, thank you. God bless you all. And there'll be class tomorrow in the evening, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. Thank you. Bless you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, sir.
Thank